Good afternoon. Welcome to Fierce Faith and Embodied Grace. I am Kate Shipp. I am a yoga therapist specializing in trauma recovery and mental health. Each week I go on live Tuesdays at 12:30 to give a little conversation and dialogue around something that can be helpful in our overall harmonious well-being. So if you're here with me right now, let me know that you've jumped on. Say hello. I'm streaming via StreamYard. So if you're on Facebook, you might want to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook to be able to register. Hi, Cindy. Thanks for being here. We are going to be talking today about cultivating hope during hard times. And we'll go into that in a little bit, but I want to give people a chance to jump on, say hi, let me know that you're here. If you've registered with StreamYard, wonderful. If you're new to this, you can go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and be able to register. So I go on for about an hour, give or take. I love to have dialogue and conversation back with you guys through the comments. So if there's anything kind of sitting heavy on the heart, if there's anything coming up for you, I am certainly willing to do a little bit of intuitive coaching around it as well. I work with people of all different ages in recovery. I created a recovery process called Regenerate. It's Christ-centered trauma recovery. And I have my first training that I just launched, and it's been absolutely amazing. And one of the foundational pieces of recovery is always hope. And this essence of what do we have to kind of anchor into in life that allows us to get through these really difficult, hard times, that allows us to move through these waves of unexpected changes, these waves of perhaps unexpected seasons of life. And how do we do that in a way that creates some possibility and curiosity and hopefulness instead of feelings of despair, fear, feeling out of control. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things. Hi, Jade. Hi, Brandy. So I'm going to start with an acronym for the word hope that I started using years ago in my own healing journey. And the word hope I chose to stand for here on purpose every day. Okay, so HOPE, here meaning on earth, in these physical bodies, having the experiences that we're having on purpose. So there's reason and meaning. I look at purpose as there's reason and meaning every day. And for many during this past year, there's been a loss of hope. There's been a loss of desire, a loss of intrigue, a loss of joy, a loss of loved ones, a loss of jobs or situations or things in life that used to bring a lot of light, a lot of happiness. And there's a lot of people struggling right now. So I just want to name that. I've had a lot of people reach out. I know other people, friends of mine that do similar work. They've had a lot of people reach out. And I chose this topic to really start having a dialogue and conversation of what instills hope in our soul when we feel like things are falling apart. What instills hope in our hearts when things don't go the way we want it to? How do we reconnect to this energy of hope when we're in grief or despair? And the foundational underlying experience of hope being something that we can anchor into as a part of feeling alive and well. Hi, Lizzie K. Brandy, thank you for putting that in there. Hope here on purpose every day. So one of the things that I find to be really helpful in the morning when I'm waking up and getting myself kind of situated, shifting out of the dream state into the wake state, is taking time and breath. You guys have heard me say that before. I'm a big supporter of breath work to be able to move our energy and kind of change and be with what's happening and then shift what's happening, because we do get to have control over our energy. And then another thing I think about is, how can I be of help today? So you'll hear this over and over again in a lot of recovery programs, is this essence of focusing on other, not on self. How can we help make someone else's day better? And so I find it to be exciting to start my day thinking, okay, God, I'm in this with you today. I've plugged in, I'm clocked in, my energy's open, things are flowing. How can I be of service in the world? How can I be of help to bring hope to someone else? Because here's the thing, right? God, universe, source, whatever you want to call that for yourself, right, uses people. And one of the ways that people connect into this energy of hope is through others. And so when we feel someone on our heart, instead of ignoring that, reaching out, send a text message, pick up the phone, send an email, and inquire with them, hey, you came to my heart this morning. Just wanted you to know I'm sending you love. Is there anything I can do to help make your day better? Have you ever asked someone that question? Is there anything I can do to help make your day better or easier? That is such a powerful question because it opens up an opportunity for someone to ask themselves, what would be helpful for me right now? And instead of them having to ask for help, which is a lot of times people's greatest fear, is asking for help. So when we say to someone, how can I help make your day better? That's a really big shift in saying, I'm showing up for you. And I'm here to serve. I want to help you have a better day. I want to help you smile more today. How can I be of service? It kind of takes the pressure off the other person of having to reach out and ask for help. It does ask them to be honest. They might say, oh, I'm fine. My day's great. And if that's the response, let that be enough. But you may find that someone says, you know what? Like just you reaching out made my day so much better. Or I was really struggling this morning with something and the phone call, if you calling just lit up my life a little bit more, seeing your name pop up on the phone. Right? Receiving the email with the words of kindness is beautiful. So a challenge that I did a long time ago, a few years ago, was every day for 30 days, I sent an email to someone just saying words of encouragement and praise. And it was a different person every day. And it may have only been 3 to 5 sentences. Like I'll say Brandy because she's on here. Good morning, Brandy. I just wanted you to know that I'm praying that you have a beautiful day today. I'm so thankful for our friendship. I'm so grateful that we can connect on all things energy. And I love the light that you bring into this world and into my life. Something simple like that. And Brandy, all that's true. And because we have the power to help make someone else's life better. And so while people are in prayer and they're asking for certain things, God, would you please, source, would you please, presence of love, would you please, someone else is going to answer that prayer. And that could be you. So part of cultivating hope in the hard times is being willing to show up for others as much as you would want someone to be showing up for you. And that may seem counterintuitive because sometimes when we're in the depths of despair, and I've been there, I've been not wanting to get out of bed for weeks at a time. I've been crying in my closet in the past when I was in the throes of complex PTSD. But when we take the focus off of ourselves for a moment and start thinking about how we can make someone else's life a little bit easier that day, it changes our energy. It allows us to expand our heart space outward and says, even if I'm struggling right now, I can use my own energy to help someone else feel a little bit better, which will always help you feel better. And it's not about using that to make yourself feel better, but it's a natural, beautiful consequence of helping other people. Is the nature of our humanity is we find great joy in helping others live a better life. That's why a life of service can be so fulfilling for people, is because it's not about them. When we focus on the other, it creates more heart-centered energy for ourselves. I'm going to pause here for a moment. Hi, Melissa. I'm glad you're here. I see a Facebook user with a blue heart. I'm not sure who that is, but hi. So if you're watching in the group or on my page, is to recognize that I may not be able to see if it's you if you haven't registered with StreamYard, which is totally fine. Just put your name in there so I can know who it is. Brandy, we rise by lifting others, key to my healing. Yes, absolutely. There's so much light and so much peacefulness and happiness to be found when we help other people on their journey. Hi, Chrissy. Okay, glad that's you. Thanks for letting me know. So this hope, this here on purpose every day. And so some people will, they'll say, when I don't know what my purpose is. We all have different expressions, I believe, of the same purpose. I believe our purpose here in this world is to be love. And the way that that's expressed through each of us is very different and unique. And I love that because we're all different, unique beings designed very intentionally for that. And so where my purpose falls into helping people through trauma recovery at this point in my life, what I actually find my purpose is to be a space of compassion and love. And how that manifests in my life is through helping other people on their recovery journey. So you may find that your essence of being love is to cook a beautiful meal for someone, or to be an educator, or a healthcare provider, or a service worker, or a stay-at-home dad or mom, or to be just the most joyful being in this life that you can be. Or you may find that your purpose is to be guiding others through some suffering, or to be encouraging. There's so many people in this world that are amazing encouragers, and that's a gift. And I think to scripture where it talks about the gifts that we've been given through God, and we're each given certain gifts for certain reasons. And I believe that it's a manifestation of bringing this love to others. And to be a beacon of hope in hard times doesn't mean that you're not suffering your own ways. We all have our human levels of suffering. And I think that we can also be a light of hope, a light in times of darkness, in times of sorrow, when even we may be going through our own things. And I find that when we turn our energy and intention to other, that we provide a level of hope that may not have been there to begin with. So that's the first piece, right? Hi, Lee Michael. Glad you caught this today too. Thank you for being here, you guys. So another piece of cultivating hope in hard times is really honing in on what we do have control over. Because oftentimes when there's a loss of hope, something happened that was out of our control. COVID, can't control that. Maybe there was illness. Maybe there was a loss of some kind, a loss of a loved one, a job, whatever it may be. Maybe there was some sort of internal shift in awareness that caused a loss of hope within yourself. And so learning to take control of what you can helps you release the energy that you're giving to what you can't. So if we all have the same amount of energy that we have access to every day, and some people have the capacity to use that energy differently than others. And sometimes that has to do with our physical body and maybe what we're going through at that time. Sometimes that has to do with our mental, emotional body and what we're processing on those layers. Sometimes it has to do with our wisdom body and the subconscious reprogramming that may be going on. And so while everyone may have the same 24 hours in a day, the way that we have been taught or learned to manage our energy is very different. And so learning simple energy management skills helps you to notice that if I'm giving my energy to these things that cause suffering and despair, then I'm normally giving my energy to things I can't control. And so instead of this tendency to avoid feeling what we're feeling, we give ourselves a lot of gentleness and grace for that. It's hard to experience things in life that are out of our control. And we have the capacity to redirect our energy to say, what can I do about this? So being solution focused instead of problem focused. The problem is XYZ. But I'm going to focus on solutions instead of dwelling on these problems. And that's not a bypassing piece here, because we're saying, I'm aware that this is happening. And what do I have control over in this? And then am I going to take control of what I can? So we always have control over our breath. We always have the capacity to change how we're breathing. We always, even though it doesn't feel like it, have control over our thoughts and the ability to notice the thoughts that we're thinking, and the ability to then discern, are these thoughts helping me or hurting me? And that's a simple question that I ask myself, is, are these thoughts helping me or are they hurting me? And then therefore we can discern, if my thoughts are hurting me, I need to acknowledge that part of me that's feeling that way. And then again, pivot and make that shift to say, what are helpful thoughts in this moment? If I'm facing a difficult situation and I have the choice to decide how I want to think, what type of thoughts are going to help me? And this may be where you call a friend and you say, I'm really struggling because I'm only seeing this situation from one perspective. And I feel like I'm losing some hope in this. Can you help me to see this in a new way? How can I learn to see this situation in a different way? Maybe it's taking out a book that really speaks to your heart and you read a few passages or a few pages that shifts your perception a little bit. A change in perception can change our whole life. If we've always thought of something in one way and it caused sorrow or despair or a loss of hope, then making a 1 degree shift, tiny, 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 I mean a 1 degree shift, like one little second notch on a clock, okay, can change everything inside our cellular layer. So if we can read something that is inspiring or watch something that is inspiring, it can change us to feel more hopeful. So by managing our thoughts, we are able to also control what we can. And then that layers into our feeling state, our emotions. We have the capacity to manage our emotions all the time. It doesn't always feel like that, but when our breath is regulated and balanced, our mind is coming from a place of clarity and rationality, our emotions are going to be more steady. And if we find that our emotions are like really rough waves on an ocean, right, then we need to really get still and kind of sink down. Remember, a long time ago, I did the video on the 90-second emotional roller coaster. Our emotions only actually have 90 seconds worth of energy. And it's then the story we tell ourselves about that emotional experience that either ends the ride or keeps it going. Right? So managing the breath to manage your mind, to study the emotions, so that then the actions that you're taking are those that create a life of more peace, a life filled with hope, a life filled with joy and love, instead of those suffering thoughts that only create a deeper well of despair. Jade, I love this so much. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Hi, Susie. Glad you could be here. So when we control what we can, it redirects our energy to create more life. When we are focusing our energy on controlling what we can't, then we are always going to feel a little bit less in despair in that way. So something that I've thought about recently is a story I used to tell myself was, I don't have enough time. And that story relates to many, many things from the past. And one of it also being from the experience of death and realizing like we don't know how much time we have. We never know. So I found I had lived life in fear of not having enough time. So essentially what I was actually doing was giving all of my energy to this fear of there's not enough. Another storyline of there's not enough. And when I shifted the thought form from there's not enough time, and I changed the thought form to I always have enough time. I have all the time I need. That was what I changed it to. I always have enough time. I have all the time I need. energy changed. It was like a 180 reversal, because here I was functioning from this place of, I don't have enough time. How am I going to get all of it done? There's never enough time. That's a place of sorrow and despair and lack. And shifting that energy into, I always have enough time. I have all the time I need. That's a faith piece, because that's a trusting point. It's saying, I trust that my needs will be met through the energy of time. And what happens when we do that is we're actually more intentional with our time. Whereas when we're thinking, I don't have enough time, people tend to multitask, which isn't really a possibility. We're never really able to do two things at once. Our brain doesn't have that capacity. And so we're always in this state of, am I going to get it all done? Are all the emails going to get answered? Am I going to reply to all the text messages? I have to get here and do this and be there and be that. It's exhausting. But then when we shift it to, I have all the time I need. I always have enough time. Then there's like this, okay, there's space. I can relax in that. I'm giving myself grace. I wasn't given any extra hour in the day. I'm simply recentering my energy to say, I have what I need. I am given all that I need to accomplish what I need to. And we can take this into a big, grander scale of the ultimate faith that says, in this life, I will have all the time that I need to complete everything I'm called to do. And my last breath will be my last breath because my job is done here. And that's an ultimate level of faith. Some moments I have that, some I struggle. But having this redirect that says, we have all the time we need, brings a lot of peacefulness, a lot of just a nice long exhale into our being. So taking control of what we can, right, and redirecting our energy to focus on that. Susie, what have you found to be the best way to explain that our mind is not the be all end all? I love this question, Susie. And I love this question for many reasons. But one is, so many teachings focus on the mind. Reprogram your mind, change your thoughts, change your life, like Wayne Dyer. And I believe in that. But what I also know to be true is the mind has a limited capacity for energy when you compare it to the heart. The electromagnetic field of the heart is much greater than that of our mind. And I'm not talking about the brain. The brain is an organ that a lot of people reference as the mind, and it's not. Right? And so when we focus on the energy of the heart, our ability to give and receive love, to be openly receptive to experiencing love and freely giving of that same love, okay, then the mind stuff starts to soften. And I say that because the mind is based on what we can call the ego. And the ego always wants to control and manage what's happening. And the ego doesn't like to control and manage itself because it doesn't want to have to ever be told that it's wrong. So if we're focused so pointedly on just the mind, we're missing all the other layers of being that actually have a greater resonance, a vibrational resonance. Okay, so when we're so focused on the mind, Susie's saying this in here right now in her last comment, that she's witnessing people who depend so completely on the mind and watching their bodies break down. And so the next piece I was going to say about why I love your question is it disconnects us from the body. When we're so focused on the mind stuff, we're disconnected from our physicality of being human. And our body, our nervous system, has a huge capacity for life. And the mind is simply processing what's happened in life. But the mind can't always make sense of things the way that the body releases it. So the body knows the story and tells a different story than the mind does, which is why when someone is only focused on their thoughts, they're actually missing the whole lower part of the iceberg. When I think of like an iceberg metaphor, the thoughts are the tip, and everything underneath it is why those thoughts are there. And so chopping off the tip of that iceberg and shifting it isn't going to change what's causing those thoughts to be there in the first place. So we really need to notice the thoughts, be aware of them, but start dropping in gently a little bit further and a little bit further into the cause of why we're thinking the way we're thinking. And that's where we start reprogramming ourselves. When we get into the body starts releasing the old pieces of our past that are unprocessed so that we have space to create a new story. And if we're only focused on the thoughts, then we're missing all of it. And this is why I'm a supporter of all forms of therapy. But this is where I find talk therapy can be limited, because unless the practitioner is bringing the body in, then the mind can have a new story, but the body's still replaying why the old story was even there. So they're not talking to each other. And so we need to bring them into harmony. And this is why I believe in yoga so deeply. We need to bring the body and mind into harmony through our heart space. Both are welcome here. The stories of the mind and the sensory experience of the body join in union, so then we can understand, how do I create space in my life for love? Because I think we're all seeking love. How can I create space in my life for more joy? That means we have to attend and attune to the parts of ourself that are living in the past stories of pain. And it's not about reliving the story. It's about realigning ourselves with truth, with love. And then naturally that story starts to unwind and dissolve because it finally has space. So it's as if the iceberg, more of the iceberg can start to come up into the sunlight. Right? So it's not hiding anymore beneath the surface, because that's what so many people do. We hide beneath the surface and only allow this tiny little bit to be seen. And Susie, I agree with you that there's so many people that disconnect from their body, or they harm their body through not the right nourishment, too much exercise, not enough exercise, things like that, because they want to control something. And so they think they can control what they're putting in and what they're putting out, which you can, but it can also be causing more hurt and suffering for ourselves. So for those that are like, but I always thought it was about changing your mind, I want you to just consider that part of it is about changing your mind. And the key to changing the mind is changing the heart. And I'll go into a little bit deeper piece on this briefly before I jump over to another point I wanted to address today. Is in the yogic teachings and even in the Bible, right? The mind resides in our heart. So you heard me say a little bit ago that the mind is not the brain. The brain is an organ. The mind actually sits in the energy of our heart space. And when we're attuning to our thoughts, we're actually attuning to the programming of our heart. And that's why it is said, like, there's twofold. Some people will say, follow your heart. And I said, with caution, because if the heart is programmed through your wounding, through the suffering of your past, you don't want to follow your heart, because it's always going to give you what it's always given you. That's when you have to do your heart work, your heart healing work, to then reprogram the heart into a place of love, so that you have new possibilities for life, new patterns start evolving, because you're functioning from a place of wholeness instead from a place of suffering. So the mind stuff is originating from the neural networking and programming of the heart. And you can look up Heart Math Institute if this stuff interests you. It talks about the neurobiology of your heart and the neuroscience of the heart, and how our heart has more neural network and connection than our brain. And that the energy of coming into the heart, because our heart field is 8 feet out and around us, right, our whole being. That's why we can sense something before we have an awareness of it. Then the heart starts sending messages through the vagus nerve into our gut and our brain. And these things happen in seconds. It's firing so fast. And so to reprogram the mind, you have to recenter your heart. Okay. Thank you, Lee Michael. I appreciate that compliment and encouragement. Thank you. Yeah, people you're thinking of don't trust what their body is telling them, Susie. Absolutely. Because they were taught that their body wasn't a safe space, probably, or their body didn't feel like it was trustworthy because of other things that may have happened. And it's not denying that truth for people. They may actually feel like they can't trust their body. So that would be a piece of the work, is recreating a relationship of safety and trust with their own body. Their interoception, their ability to have this internal awareness of self. All right. So in this energy of hope, recircling back into cultivating hope in these hard times, one of the things that I want to encourage for those that may be struggling is to increase your inhalations. So our inhalations bring life into our being. And some people, wonder what type of breath work would be the best when it comes to wanting to create more life. Here's what I'm going to say. Breathe more. It doesn't really matter to me what kind of breath work. Increase your inhalations. Yes, make sure the exhales are happening, but a lot of people are holding their breath every day, all day long. I mean, notice if you're breathing right now. Yes, you're breathing maybe unconsciously, because thankfully we have that capacity. But I'm talking about this conscious connected breathing that allows for life to flow through you. The inhale is the bringer of life. It restores our cells. It awakens us to the desire to want to live full, meaningful lives. So when someone is lying in bed in depression, and I may be working over Zoom, there's a lot of inhalation. We're increasing the length of the inhale. Maybe start with a count of 3, increase it to 4, and then 5, and then 6, and build your capacity to inhale up to 8 or 10. And then allow for a complete exhale, but without control. So the inhale is expansive. It's bringing new life, new radiance, new vitality into the being. And that is a direct connection to the energy of hope. Hope gives life. Your inhalation gives life. So if you're struggling with life's been really hard the past year or the past month or the past day, in the simplest form of what you can do, breathe more. Be intentional of inhaling more often, because my guess is you're getting stuck in the story of your mind. You're maybe disconnected from some of the things happening in your body, and the breath is the bridge between the two. The breath builds the bridge between the body and the mind and the heart, right? So it connects all of it. And when we inhale more fully, we're increasing our capacity for more life. Susie's saying lots of breath holding. So for those that are still with me, or if you've joined, let me know. Say hi. Let me know that you're here. I see that there's more people that have jumped on. So hello. Thank you for being here. We have a little bit more to talk about today on cultivating hope in hard times. So another piece I want to bring into this is the energy of courage. So oftentimes when there's a loss of hope, we don't feel very courageous and brave. And what helps to create that energy flowing through us is to accomplish simple tasks throughout the day that we know we can do. So we want to increase confidence to bring courage online, right? So the courage becomes, maybe I don't have the courage today to tackle that big fear, but do I have the courage today to make my bed? And I know that sounds simple. Maybe it sounds silly. It's when we can accomplish small things, it increases our confidence again. And it's important that there are things that are like we have a beginning and an end, and we're able to be aware of them at the same time. So following this making the bed in the morning is the day started, we're up, we've gotten out of bed, and then the bed is messy, and then we make the bed and the bed is neat and tidy, and there's a sense of accomplishment. So this action actually is related to people who have like interviewed billionaires in the world and millionaires. They're like, what is some of the things that you do every day? And they all say, I make my bed every morning. And it's connected to this energy of success and accomplishment, which gives us confidence, which pulls us out of despair. So it brings hope. So when we're in these states of there's not much that I can do, I can't control what's happening, we take control of what we can, and we then take the action that allows us to increase our confidence and courage. So doing the dishes, even though if you don't want to, you know you can accomplish that. And it's instant gratification of accomplishment. That brings confidence in. And then maybe we get a little bit more courageous and we make a phone call that's been hard to make in the past. Or we put a resume in for a new job because we're really unhappy with the one that we have. Or maybe you've been out of a job and you need to get yourself back into the work environment. So we do these tiny little stackings of courageous act throughout the day, and that increases your energy, right? Hopelessness and despair is very low on the vibrational scale. Hope is very high. And so it's hard to make that leap from grief and sorrow up to hope, right? But if we can just slowly start climbing that scale of vibration, then we can increase that capacity to cultivate hope. And it's tiny little things. Maybe it's taking a shower. And for some, that is a great act of courage every day to get yourself out of bed and take a shower, because the hopelessness and despair and grief that you're feeling is so overwhelming and painful on your body that the act of going in and taking a shower can be the most courageous thing that you do that day. And that is brilliant and amazing. And so we have this tendency sometimes in the mind to think that we have to accomplish these great things. No. Breathing. If all you did today was breathe, that's enough. And some people are like, well, no, it's not. And that's a whole different kind of conversation around why is someone who is spending their day in quiet solitude and breathing and healing any less productive or functional than someone who's out there making huge changes in the world. It's all ripples of energy. And so it's releasing the comparison. So that's another point to bring in here with this is sometimes cultivating hope means we have to give ourselves permission to release the comparison mindset. Because oftentimes when we're comparing ourselves to another, we're taking away that capacity to feel more joy. We're taking away our capacity for peacefulness because we're saying they're better because of this, and that's not true. So it's reclaiming your right to allow yourself to feel good. And comparison is going to pull that away from you every chance it gets. So when we release comparison, we're increasing confidence. And that's something to really start looking at and cultivating hope is there's going to be things that we don't have any sort of means to manage in our outside world. But we can start to manage what we're engaging with and whether that's going to increase confidence or whether that's going to increase our sorrow. So the redirective energy, like I was talking about earlier, is so important in giving yourself that amplitude, that amplification of hope energy in your life. Hi, Joy. Thanks for letting me know that you're here. Hi, Danny. Danny's saying that she's done these things intuitively for so long. I love that because we all have this wisdom. I don't have any more of that than anyone else. We all have this knowing of wisdom, this well of so much knowledge inside of us. And we need to tap into that. And so these intuitive essences, these intuitive senses are ways that it starts expressing ourselves in life. And Danny's saying, doing what we know we need to do might be enough. Making her bed kept her grounded when she felt out of control. Now it's become a habit. And so that's a beautiful thing when healthy choices become habits, because then they become lifestyles. And so these healthy habits become ways of living that increase our capacity to experience even more joy, even more hope in our life. Something else I want to name in here, that this is a piece that was really sensitive for me to have to name for myself years ago, and I have found that it's a vulnerable piece for many, is that it's good to feel good. It's okay to feel good, even in hard times. There's sometimes a misperception that when life is hard, we have to feel bad. And that's not true. It may have been a story that was true, but that's not actually truth. When life gets hard, we don't have to feel bad about it. We don't have to drop our vibration or energy down. We don't have to dwell in the hard stuff. We want to honor that it's hard. So someone loses someone they love, that is devastatingly hard. And then we have the capacity, how do I want to be with myself in this? I saw this beautiful quote today by a woman named, and I may be pronouncing her name wrong, so excuse me for that. I think it's Jaina John, Jaina John, and I follow her on Instagram. And she has this post today that talks about holding ourselves with the amount of nurturing that we would as if a butterfly landed in the palm of our hands. And we want to keep that butterfly safe. So are we willing to hold ourselves? And I love that, because it was like, oh, I've been blessed to hold a butterfly. And I realized, I remember the moment I was holding that butterfly, everything got quiet and everything got really soft. And everything became very, very focused and still, and keeping that sweet little butterfly safe in my hands. And will we hold ourselves with that same level of love when life is hard? And when we meet ourselves with that gentleness and compassion and kindness and empathy as we would a loving friend, then we're able to cultivate more of this hope. We're able to have more clear moments to make conscious choices to then change our life. And no changes really ever happen for people when life is going really great. And I think that's important to understand, is a lot of times it's these hard moments in life that give us the new level of awareness to say, I need to make some changes. And I get to decide what those changes are, and I get to co-create my life. I am not just experiencing life. I am creating my experience of life. Some people will say this through like, life is happening for me, not to me. That's a hard statement for people to digest when they've lost someone that they loved. It certainly doesn't feel like life is happening for them. But the response that they have to what happened can create a more meaningful life. Oftentimes, it's these moments of despair and grief and hopelessness that we start to evaluate what's working and not working in our life. That what do we need to adjust? What do we need to change? What's going really well? We start to kind of pull back and observe, and then we start to declutter our life. And that decluttering creates more space for how you actually want to live. So when there's times of hopelessness, when there's times where life feels tough and difficult, one of the invitations is to pull back, to hold yourself with tenderness. And if you've never held a butterfly, maybe you've held a newborn baby. And your energy certainly changes when you hold a newborn baby. There's a tenderness that comes. And it's this awareness of What do I need to do to protect, to keep safe? Not from a place of fear, but from a place of life is important. Life matters. You matter. Your life matters. Your enjoyment of life matters. Your ability to believe that you can make the necessary changes to create a life that you love matters. And that's hope. That life isn't going to be how it always is. There's a natural evolution, and you play a really important part of that for yourself. And so it's good to feel good. It's okay to feel good and to allow yourself enjoyment and moments of laughter and smiling and peacefulness, even in the hard times, even when things are difficult. So cultivating hope doesn't necessarily have to do with changing the external, because there's certainly a lot of things that are hard to change and outside of our control, but it's learning how to be with yourself from a place of love and then managing the internal to create the changes you need to live a better life, a more enjoyable life. All right, who's with me? I've seen people coming and going. I would love to know if you're here, if things are connecting and resonating with you, if there's any inquiry around some of the things that I've taught on today. So if there's anything coming up, let me know. I'm going to take a quick peek at my phone to look at the other group that this may be live on right now to just see if anything's coming up in there. Yeah, let's see if it's showing up. So let me know if you're still here with me. I'm seeing some comments on here coming up, and I think most of them I've caught. Okay. All right. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I will be on next week as well at the same time. Oh, Susie's popping through with a comment. So she said, I've heard that smiling can help to lift the mood. True. Yes, it can. And just by allowing ourselves the space to smile, we're changing our energy. One of the other things that's sparking something in me, Susie, so I appreciate you bringing that in, is oftentimes when our energy is really low and we're struggling with something, our palms face down. And so humor me if you're watching me right now and you have the ability, just turn your palms down. And whether they're in your lap or on your desk or wherever you may be, and just notice that feeling of palms down has a grounding essence. It can also, for some people, have a constrictive essence. And then a very simple way to also change your energy is turn your palms up. And when we turn our palms up, it's an act of surrender, which means I'm going to let go of what I don't have control over. I'm going to surrender this. And it automatically opens the heart. When our palms are down, our heart energy is a little more closed off. And when our palms are up, it immediately opens the heart space and energy. So if you turn your palms up, if you haven't already, notice that change. Change physically in your chest, tops of the shoulders drop down. You may notice you sit up taller, right? And then certainly, yes, the act of smiling helps to open up, and intentional laughter, right? Oh, Lizzie K's still here. Good, because I was just thinking of you in that. So the intentional laughter, doing laughter therapy, doing things that bring out this essence that allows for more light to be birthed in times of sorrow. They can coexist. We are not either or beings. We are and beings. We have the space for both. And oftentimes it's, I don't want to feel this and I'm going to move it to this. And the invitation I have for you is you have the capacity to hold both. You can have despair and hope. You can have grief and joy. They are polarities of each other, and we have been given this beautiful gift for all of it. Michelle or Brandy saying, thanks, Brandy. Oh, good. Michelle, I'm so glad that you were able to catch this. You had a feeling, oh, okay, so hard for so long that I've lost hope. Well, I'm so grateful that you tuned into this today, and hopefully it gives you some tools and skills and action items that feel like you have a little bit more control over what's happening within you, even if there's a feeling of I can't control what's happening outside of me. Beautiful. So attune to your breath, you guys. Take control of what you can, giving yourself so much tenderness and love in these times of despair or difficulty, and knowing that this energy of hope, this light of aliveness that lives within your heart is there, even when it feels like the light may have dimmed. Inviting in the presence of a phone call, reaching out to someone who you know may be suffering, allowing yourself to be other-focused instead of self-focused. That doesn't mean you forget self-care. Always, always, always your own oxygen mask first. But then also tuning it over to sometimes the best thing we can do for ourselves is to help another. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Wishing you a beautiful, blessed day. Take care.